Today on the show, should transgendered athletes be forced to disclose their birth genders if they would like to fight in women's MMA?
And a fresh Jameis Winston scandal has us all asking, is he involved in point shaving?
Plus, it's that time of the year as we look forward to the NFL playoff picture, take a look at the latest college football playoff rankings, and yes, Week 11 NFL picks. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey everybody, welcome once again. It's episode 28 of the Sean and Bo Show. I'm Sean O'Donnell along with my co-host Bo Greer, and we'd like to thank you however you're checking us out, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, or now on Funnel Cake Sports Radio. So thank you for checking out the show. Bo, we're going to start off today's episode with a bit of a skirmish that I was involved with over the weekend. Vice Sports published an article. It was entitled Heroes, Martyrs, and Myths, The Battle for the Rights of Transgender Athletes. And basically what's at issue here is whether transgendered athletes, that is people that were born men and then decided that they identified themselves as females, should be able to fight in MMA against women, basically. And Joe Rogan had a big problem with this whole premise. He's rallied against this before. Basically, his argument is that, even if you change your status to female, you still developed as a male. You have better bone density, you have bigger joints, there's certain other mechanical advantages he cites in punching and things like that. Yeah. So he basically says, I'm okay with transgendered people. This just is an unfair advantage in the world of mixed martial arts when they're going up against people that were born female. Mm-hmm. Now, his point is that it's fine if everybody knows the situation. If a fighter, a transgender fighter, discloses that they were in fact born a man and their female opponent knows that, is okay with it, then fine, let them fight. But if they don't know, if that's being kept a secret, then that's a problem. It's an unfair advantage. So following Joe Rogan getting on Twitter and saying that this was a biased article, the editor-in-chief of Vice Sports tweeted out something like, thanks for the traffic, you bigot. And I had a problem with that. I think that this is a discussion that we can all have without resorting to name-calling. Just the premise that if you disagree with any part of this, you're some sort of transphobic bigot is way over the top. Yeah,
just like if any Caucasian tries to have a conversation about race in America and they have an opinion that is not favorable, by the group of people, in which they're having a discussion about immediately, he's a racist, Let's hear him out. Let's give everybody, hear both sides of the story and not jump to conclusions.
Yeah, that's right. And if you'd like to check out the ensuing fracas that took place on Twitter, drop by at Sean and Bo Show while you're there. Give us a follow. But I got accused of being transphobic. I called stupid by this guy who's in charge of Vice Sports. So I wanted to clear the air about this. And let's first talk about the article in question. The author, Parker Malloy, wrote this article. Here's some quotes about it. She talked about Joe Rogan's take during his podcast where he was talking about this transgendered fighter, Fallon Fox, and he said, quote, "She wants to be able to fight women in MMA. I say no effing way. I say if you had a dick at one point in time, you also have all the bone structure that comes with having a dick. You have bigger hands, you have bigger shoulder joints, you're a effing man. That's a man, okay? You can't have that's I don't care if you don't have a dick anymore, you're a man." Okay, so she called this bigoted, short-sighted, blah, blah, blah. Like I mentioned, Joe Rogan then went on Twitter in response to this article and made his point. He put, it was like 7 or 8 consecutive tweets where he argued about this. And then the proverbial shitstorm basically started, man. Both sides were throwing these haymakers at each other. I kind of got involved in the middle of this. But if you look at the science, and not just the science that the author of this article used in this piece, if you look at an objective medical opinion, there is a big difference. And this article was from a board-certified endocrinologist, Dr. Ramona Krutzik, and she made several points about this. Quote, so here you have a man who has a hormonal blockers to block testosterone, but is now taking estrogen, which is then going to prevent osteoporosis, so there wouldn't be a great percentage of bone density loss per se. Males have higher bone density and higher mass skeletons than females. It takes a long time for that to diminish. They go on to say women also have lighter childbearing hips because of the difference in hormones during the body's developmental years. Her skeleton and body mass and shape developed a long time ago. Those changes cannot be undone. They are permanent. Later in the article, when you see the female bodybuilders, the ones that have built large amounts of muscle mass, they don't achieve that without androgen supplements. Women just do not have the ability to produce the same muscle mass that men do. The thing you need to consider is that everyone has different inborn abilities to develop muscle. It comes down to genetic potential, and some people just have better abilities. Okay. So from a scientific standpoint, we can see that physiologically there's a difference between a male and a female. And the article of this Vice piece's whole point, which this is to quote their article, Rogan's assertions about bone density being built different and so on have no basis in science. As Dr. Villan and other medical professionals have stated, hormone replacement therapy has a way of adjusting bone density, muscle mass, and eroding other advantages trans athletes may have. So there's the flaw in the methodology that I see. You're admitting simultaneously that there is an advantage and saying that the way you're combating that advantage, eroding that advantage, is by adjusting it. Well, how do you know when that ever takes place? How do you know when you're at that point?
And that individual would not be able to compete for any sanctioned body, whether it's high school, college, or the UFC, because what do they do that we know? They blood test. You're not going to be able to be on all those dopamines that are going to regulate you enough to put you at that level and honestly call yourself an athlete, because to some extent, those would be considered performance-enhancing drugs, right? If you're a male and you want to fight females and you can take something that puts you on their level, chemically, that's performance-enhancing because you're going to have an edge over your female competitors. That's just the way I look at it. I think it's real simple to say that the guy with the Vice Sports, he's reaching. He's really reaching out there. He's attacking Joe Rogan. I really don't understand why. I don't think Joe was waving a flag saying, I'm going to take down every transgender athlete that tries to do anything.
And I want to be completely clear about that. You know, I can't speak for you, Bo, but for myself, I have absolutely no issue with anybody that chooses to be male, female, whatever. I just don't care. It's your business. Do whatever makes you happy.
Yes.
But what this comes down to is a fair fight. It's the reason why there are weight divisions in MMA. It's the reason why we have these governing bodies that are doing all these drug testing and all that stuff. It comes down to, is this a fair fight? So again, the issue to me is not whether or not transgendered athletes ought to be able to compete. It's an issue of transparency. That female opponent that they're facing ought to be able to make the decision and consent to that fight with full knowledge that the person that they're fighting was not born female. Simple as that. If they choose to then go on with the fight, great. Everybody's happy. Win-win. Let's get it on. Yeah. It's an issue of transparency, and that's it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and you know, I like the same reason that I'm doing this podcast with you, and I like to talk more football than anything because I played football. I coached football. Football has been a part of my life since I was 5 years old. My father claims he put a football in the crib the first day I came home from the hospital. Joe Rogan, through listening to his podcast, I realized that fighting has been in his life for a long time. He's a 4-time California kickboxing champion, if I'm correct.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts,
Yeah.
Okay, Massachusetts. So, you know, when I hear him commenting, I don't feel that it's coming from a place to where, you know, most people in Joe Rogan's position would bring it from. Oh, this is time to be political. This is time to get hits on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else in between. Joe Rogan is doing this because he's passionate about fighting. This guy has championed the whole Ultimate Fighting Championships his whole career. That's what he's more known for, fighting with this younger group, than being on TV shows and doing stand-up comedy. So you can't look at this, if you're the Vice Sports editor, as if Joe Rogan's trying to make a point. He's just wanting fair competition. And in a sport where it's not like football, baseball, basketball, where you just have to have skills that are based off hand-eye coordination, endurance, the ability to jump, you're talking about physically going in and punching people in the face, kicking them, trying to physically hurt your opponent. I would think that fairness would be big in a sport where you can lose an eye because somebody punched you in it. That's real.
Yeah.
This isn't basketball. This is fighting. So I understand where Joe's coming from.
And that's the other issue that I had with this entire debate, and just the way these folks are going about this debate, is that, like I said, anybody that disagrees with you is not automatically a bigot.
Yes.
Let's have the conversation. Let's see the scientific studies. Let's look at the evidence. But to call people bigoted or transphobic simply because they don't agree with your position is wrong. That's not getting to the heart of this debate, and it's not really useful. Like in this article, the author Parker Malloy took these little subtle jabs at Rogan, like calling him a washed-up comedian, simply because they don't agree with his position. Now, it's a total red herring.
Yeah.
It destroys the argument. If we're going to start insulting each other and saying that at the onset of this argument we're not on equal footing intellectually, then that kind of destroys the whole marketplace of ideas that we're trying to achieve in any kind of a debate format. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you, Sean. And, I deal with this all the time. Anybody who does anything in their community, whether it's volunteer time, coaching kids, you work at a school, whatever it may be, you run into this. I remember this instance where we're talking about children who are coming to school hungry, and someone brings up the point, man, they should give out free lunches at all schools in America or free breakfasts to the kids so they can get their day started, because there's so much science out there on that. Well, I just remember someone in that same room saying, "Oh, you liberal, free food." And it's like, can we have an educated discussion on helping people? When we all know that the most important meal of the day is that first one, and we have enough money in the schools to pull it off. Let's not turn it into a political debate. Yet you see this time and time again. You could be trying to help out someone that's wanting to compete. You could be trying to help a sport. But if you bring that argument that the other person doesn't like, automatically you're a conservative, you're a liberal, you're a bigot, you're a racist. We never get anywhere in this country with our discussions because people are too quick to pull that card.
The whole thing was ridiculous to me, and it's not good journalism, for one. And I had such a high respect for Vice just as a media corporation. Now, granted, this is Vice Sports. This is a very small subset of Vice itself, but It's like, come on, you guys are better than this. And it's like, I told the editor-in-chief, I was like, you really lost a lot of respect from me just, by name-calling Rogan instead of having a discussion. And his response was good. Vice doesn't need or want your respect. It's like, what are you, 14 guy?
Yeah, and I mean, the whole idea of Vice, you turned me onto them. It was through actually watching Joe Rogan's podcast that I got onto Vice. And, you got to realize that this world we live in, it is connected. And that guy, he better slow his roll, because that can come back and bite him.
Enough of that nonsense. All right. This was an interesting story I saw. It's one of those things when a burglar commits a crime and they have no idea who they're stealing from. Well, Mike Vrabel, former linebacker on the Patriots, got his 3 Super Bowl rings ripped out of his house. It was a burglary. The cops are saying that there was a whole string of robberies where they knocked on people's front doors. If there was no answer, they'd go around back, break a window, and go steal jewelry. Well, The person that they decided to hit up was Mike Vrabel. So all 3 Super Bowl rings were stolen. He talked about it, basically told pawn shops to be on the lookout.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, that's going to be ugly if Vrabel finds out who did this.
Yeah, and it's like, I was watching this special, and this criminology expert, this ex-FBI guy's telling people about how to protect their valuables. And the number one thing he gave, he said, just a good rule of thumb, general rule of thumb, don't keep more than $150,000 worth of jewelry in your house. I guarantee the retail value of those 3 rings, you could buy my house 3 times.
An expert was saying that they're about $75,000 per ring.
There you go. So he broke over that threshold, and, people like you and I, Sean, the people that I hope listen to this show, we're not going to feel too sorry for the guy. That's what they make safety deposit boxes for.
The only thing that they could steal from me jewelry-wise if they broke in here is one of those lollipops that looks like a ring. I think I have one of those in the drawer, but good luck besides that, man. I ain't got no gold chains.
Those are great, man. I remember they used to give us those when we played Little League Baseball. Like, you had a choice at the end of the game. You could pick some candy, and you get those lollipop rings, and you'd be trying to get it down before you got home because you knew if your brothers and sisters seen you with it, that was over. Literally, they would take it from you or knock it out of your hand. Good memories.
Vrabel wasn't the only person that lost some money recently. 49er Aldon Smith, according to Adam Schefter, may very well be the first NFL player to ever pay to play.
Yeah, that must be a part of that whole reduced sentencing program that the NFL has. You know, the guy is back on probation. Is the NFL disciplinary department? Are they borrowing things from the Department of Justice now? Like what's going on? So now, not are we only going to take games away from the players, they're going to pay money back to society. What is this, community service?
ESPN had the story from Adam Schefter, who reported after Smith's 9-game suspension, his salary this season will be $1.09 million, with the net salary after taxes being $525K. Okay, the 49ers will take all of that from his game checks this season for money he owes due to signing bonus forfeiture. So not only is he not going to be paid for the remaining games this season, he's also going to owe more money, okay? Mm-hmm. Again, $525K. He owes San Francisco $1.18 million. So he'll play the rest of this season without making a dime, and then he's going to owe an additional $661,000. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, but it just goes a long, long, long way, Sean, in that discussion of who really runs this country. Because last time I checked, we bailed out these people, and we had to pay them after they wrecked our country. And all this guy does is play football. And I really don't care who the billionaire that owns the San Francisco 49ers is and how he made his money and how I don't care.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't care.
It's a contract. He signed it. You know, he got whatever signing bonus he got if he was going to finish the season and play all these games. Didn't do that because of a dumb bonehead move on his part. He's paying the piper. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I just think that, yet again, it just shows you what can be considered middle-class and blue-collar work, because there are people in our society that have jobs that pay as much as Aldon Smith. I know a guy, he was the, what do you call him, zoning commissioner for Bernalillo County, said that our county had to pay him $225,000 a year. The final year of his job, he was sick, and they tried to sue him to get him to pay back the $225,000 salary. They didn't have any grounds for that. He didn't work that year. That's tax money, buddy.
Yeah, it happens. People are going to squeeze every last drop they can out of the system any way they can.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, really, a guy that I'm yelling at because, you know, he maybe gets a pick against Tony Romo and I have him on my fantasy football team, I really don't care how much money he owes back, which it's kind of cool to see that there are penalties for being a bad guy. But let's all just really think about what's going on. Let's say this was a Dallas Cowboy and Jerry was getting the money. Oh, let's give $500,000 back to a billionaire. Way to go. Yeah, there you go. Jerry Jones, Mr. Party Animal himself, as if he needs another $500,000.
All right, enough of these negative stories, Bo. I need a little positivity to lighten the mood. This was a cool story you were just telling me about. A college player by the name of Austin Hatch finally got some playing time. What was the deal with this?
Yeah, I seen this story this morning, and when I'm reading it, I'm thinking that it's a misprint. It says Austin Hatch, survivor of 2 plane crashes, scores 1 point. His first point, he's a freshman guard at the University of Michigan. Last night, he hits his second free throw. I'm thinking to myself, like, surviving 1 plane crash is, you know, the odds of that are insane. He survived 2. In those plane crashes, Sean, he lost his mother, his father
Jeez.
and his stepmother, and the second one, his little brother died. His whole family's gone. He was raised by family.
He was the sole survivor?
Sole survivor.
Wow.
He was raised by his family in California because the last one happened when he was about 11, 12 years old. The thing that I took away from this was he had to learn how to walk. He had to learn how to talk all over again. He was in one of those medical-induced comas where he suffered massive amounts of brain damage. And for him to be out there playing Division I basketball, he's a 6'6" guard. That is a tremendous story, and I was just glad to see that.
That is a cool deal.
Yeah.
Coming up on the show, new Jameis Winston scandal. This time it involves point shaving. Is the FBI investigating? Well, they can neither confirm nor deny. Also, a bonehead play during the Utah-Oregon game. I'm going to ask Bo about some of the stupid things that he saw in his playing career in Division I ball. Plus, later in the show, NFL picks, and we're going to take a look at the NFL playoff picture. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, folks, thank you very much for listening and checking out the Sean and Bo Show. And we would love to hear from you. We love interacting with listeners, and there's a few different ways you can do that. Number one, go on Twitter at Sean and Bo Show. Give us a follow. Tweet at us. Also, you can just email us. The address, seanandboshow@gmail.com. Also, check out past episodes you might have missed. We're available on iTunes, YouTube, or at seanandboshow.podomatic.com. Back to the show.
All right, welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Sean, this segment here, I think I'm going to move us into greener pastures. The last segment got a little tense here. Had to put some people in their place, but we're going to get this started with Jameis Winston. Man, our crab leg stealing, dirty word dropping on campus guy, he just can't stop. He just wants to be in the news. What did he do this time?
Well, TMZ Sports reported that he may be being investigated by the NCAA for point shaving. That's right, an entirely new controversy. At issue here is whether or not a former high school player and friend, UAB football player Chris Robb, bet $5,500 that FSU would be losing to Louisville at half. As it turned out, they were. So that would have been a good bet. Of course, they ended up winning the game. Florida State did. But, the situation involving this is awfully fishy. Winston threw 2 interceptions in the first half, rallied back in the second half miraculously to pull off the W. Something doesn't smell quite right here, okay? So Jimbo Fisher was asked about it. He said, "How many reports do we get on guys all the time? We send it to the proper channels and they handle it and you move on." He was asked a follow-up question. He said, "I just sent it to the proper channels." So before somebody out there says, "Well, what does a million, he's going to make millions of dollars in his professional career. Why would he risk it? That's so stupid. It's so short-sighted." Just remember that you're talking about the same dude that stole $25 worth of crab legs from a supermarket, okay? Yeah. The guy obviously isn't operating at the highest of mental states. Yeah. So do I believe that it's possible? You're damn right. The story kind of lacks a little meat at this point. We just kind of have, we don't really have any raw evidence that points to the fact that he did do this. It's just a very strange set of circumstantial coincidences, I guess you could call them. So point shaving is a big, big deal now. I think it's a felony, right?
Dude, point shaving is no joke. You do not want to be associated with it. I was thinking all the protection that he has seen Florida State kind of circle the wagons around him in the past, this will be the one where he will be out in the cold. Jameis, I hope you have friends. I hope your mom and dad know some lawyers. Because if somebody can put a paper trail together, get a statement, you won't be wearing that uniform. They're going to try and distance themselves from you and the years that even the national championship. They'll probably call the NCAA up and say, "Hey, we'll give it back. Just don't give us the death penalty." And, with Jameis having the mental IQ something around a fourth grader. Man, that's maybe too high.
You know what's funny?
Second grade.
You know what's funny? I was listening to Dan Patrick the other day, and he had the author escapes my mind, but it's basically a book on modern quarterbacks and the developmental process they go through. And they had like Trent Dilfer as one of the analysts in the book, and he's actually spent a lot of time apparently with Jameis. And the word is that he's actually pretty smart, especially when it comes to like football decision making, like being able to make split quarterback decisions. That he's real bright, one of the brighter quarterbacks that Trent Dilfer says that he's worked with. So
he has that. He has the football IQ.
When is he just going to stop doing stupid crap? Like
that's it.
Every controversy, I'm like, okay, this is the last we're going to hear about Jameis Winston. He's going to see the writing on the wall and realize that it's not worth it. But it's like after the sexual assault case, he did the stupid crab leg theft. After that, he got up on top of a table in the middle of campus and uttered some profanities over and over again. So it's like, I'm past the point now. I don't really think that there's much time left in his college career, obviously, for him to mature. But
3 games.
It just makes me scratch my head, man.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where you have to ask yourself, are the people in the Jameis Winston camp able to get to him now because he has went through so much with Florida State to where they're like, they don't care about you. We're the only people that are in your corner. Hey, make sure we're behind at halftime this Louisville game, and I'll give you $10K. You never know what it's like right now for Jameis. So, all that being said, you step back and you say, well, maybe he didn't do this, but then you say TMZ Sports. When you say TMZ Sports to me, that makes me think they got a piece of paper. They have a Facebook like interaction.
Yeah, no,
it was
on a gambling forum that this was apparently discussed that the UAB player, Jameis's buddy, did in fact put this bet in. So
he'd be in trouble. He's a current player at UAB.
Yep.
Man, like, you know how I am. Heck, I talk about gambling on the show. People, you think I just started gambling when I turned 23 and stopped playing college football? I'm gonna call the NCAA and see if they'll let me do a seminar where I'll go around all the Division I schools and say, listen, you need to call a friend back home. If you feel like you know something about the game you're about to play or a game that one of your buddies is in, you need to have a buddy at home that places your bets, cashes out the money, and don't talk about it on Twitter or Facebook. These guys are idiots, man. Come on. UAB player. His coach is now in a frenzy because he's going to have to suspend him for betting on college football. Come on, guys.
Bo's betting tips to college athletes.
Yeah.
Speaking of boneheads, what did Oregon just move up to in the college football playoff rankings? They jumped Florida State, right? Are they at 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, they are at 3.
Yeah. Okay. So that came on the heels of the game against Utah, where they ended up beating them 51 to 20.
They're 2. They're 2.
Are they 2?
Because Florida State's 3 and Alabama's 4.
Okay, 2. So again, they just beat Utah. They won 51 to 27. Pretty convincing victory, Bo. But it didn't start out that way. You'll remember in the first quarter of that game, Utah was actually leading 7-0. There was a great play on the field, and Utah receiver Kalen Clay ended up, running into the end zone. Problem was the ball didn't go into the end zone with him. He dropped it about the 2-yard line. Just dumb. Of course, we know what happened after that. The route was on, but it started off as a close game. So when that happened, an Oregon player picked the ball up, returned it 99 yards, for an Oregon touchdown. So instead of getting 7 points, they got nothing, and Oregon got 7 points. A 14-point swing. Big momentum breaker. So if you're new to listening to the show and you didn't know, my co-host here, Bo, played Division I college football for the University of New Mexico, and it got me to thinking, Bo, did you ever see anything that dumb done on the football field? I mean, was there anything that boneheaded that you saw?
Oh yeah. And so, I played offensive line. I was a guard, and I was a smaller guard. I was quicker, so I pulled a lot. I was always leading the running backs up in the hole, blocking on linebackers and stuff. So one of our starting guard, my senior year, goes down, and we had our third string guard somehow ends up in the game for a couple snaps. And they call a play where I pull, and, I'm pulling to the left. And I'm like, hey, I'm pulling on this play because, I'm trying to make sure he knows what he's doing. I'm pulling. Sean, ball snapped. I'd come up and I pull like I was an animal when I pulled. I'd come out in my first 2 steps. Once you get 330 pounds going in one direction, you're not stopping it. Who's looking right at me? The guard on the opposite side. He's pulling the other way too. So me and the two guards, we meet behind the center right at his ass cheeks, and we hit helmet to helmet, fall on our face. It looked like 2 idiots out there. So that's probably one of the dumbest things that I've ever been a part of, telling a guy in the huddle, hey, I'm pulling, and he still goes ahead and goes the wrong way.
Oh, that's probably why UNM did so awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
For his part, Kalen Clay took to Twitter after the loss and said in caps, I take full responsibility for this game by my selfish actions. I'll take this one. Well, that's awfully courteous of you to say, but I think there are a whole lot of Ute fans out there that they're probably not going to be so quick to forgive you.
Yeah, and good luck walking around campus. I'm pretty sure he had everybody going to his classes for him this week. I don't know how you even go get service in the lunch line on the Utes campus.
Utah could have won that game.
Yeah, that momentum.
Oregon is now number 2.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, another funny thing that happened during the college football Saturday was during the Bama LSU game. Bo, I know you watched this game, right?
Yeah, that's what I was watching when that play went on. That was a heck of a game.
Well, during the overtime, during an injury timeout, one of the LSU players was injured, and the LSU fans had a rather colorful and creative chant going on in the stands. It sounded a little something like this. I'm pretty sure I know what they were saying, Bo. Funky Saban?
Funky Saban.
Does he have a new album coming out?
Yeah, that's what it is. He's got a mixtape.
Funky Saban. Nick Saban raps the hits of the early 90s.
Oh, that'd be a great one. Oh, the classy education of the good old LSU Tigers. I have an in-law that is a graduate of that university, and he has a basement where he watches all the LSU Tiger games because his wife over the years has learned I can't be anywhere near this guy when he's watching LSU. So the fact that that's the chant coming out of the crowd, I'm not surprised one bit. That's Al.
The funny thing about those rivalries to me is that an LSU fan would take Nick Saban as the head coach of LSU in a split second.
Which they've had before.
They'd take him back. They'd take him back tomorrow.
Oh, yes, they would.
They don't hate him that much.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to remember, I love me some of that gangster rap. Little Boozy, underground rapper, a lot of people don't know him. He gets out of prison after beating one of his latest murder raps, and LSU hires him to do a public service announcement to tell all the recruits of Louisiana, stop going to Alabama. You're embarrassing our state. Please stay home. So I am totally, if you know Little Boozy's rap, I'm not surprised that that's coming out of that crowd.
Well, we're going to take another brief break, but coming up on the show, stuff Gruden says, plus the bizarre way that Mark Sanchez celebrated after the big win on Monday Night Football, and we'll go into our NFL picks for Week 11 and take a look at the college football playoff rankings. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show.
Hey, loyal listeners, this is Bo from the Sean and Bo Show. Just letting you know we need your help once again, and we're talking about growing the show. Tell a coworker, tell a family member, heck, tell a friend. Even if you don't like the show, let them listen to it. You can find us at seanandboshow.podomatic.com. That's seanandboshow.podomatic.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Now, if you were watching Monday Night Football, you saw one of the great announcing performances. John Gruden, this guy, he was in some rarefied air, Bo. This is like the most Gruden-y I've ever heard Gruden get. In fact, I tweeted out that at a time during the game, it was tough for me to discern the real Gruden from one of my favorite parody Twitter accounts out there, Faux Gruden.
Hilarious.
You got to follow that, by the way. It's faux_Gruden. Here are some of my favorite Grudenisms, I guess you could call them. After seeing a celebration dance between two players, Gruden said, "My son and I do this dance." My favorite one, though, was after a Sanchez score, Gruden says, this is like Escape from New York, man. Tirico fires back, you've been saving that all day, haven't you? And Gruden said, no, it just occurred to me now. Tirico, that's baloney, but okay. I like Snake Plissken. I never thought I would hear that during a football game.
Never.
Here's another gem. When Cam's on, the receivers are off. And when Cam's off, Cam's off. Brilliant as always. Another one. This was when they were showing like the quarterback carousel. They had like a little animated piece. It was like Russian dolls fitting inside each other. And after it aired, Gruden said, I feel like I'm on the beach listening to that music. That was a nice little cartoon.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, what was absolutely the best part of the broadcast was when it was a blowout, Tirico and Gruden literally made smoothies in the booth. Busted out a blender, some Gruden powder, and a banana. Spider 2Y banana.
There you go.
Oh, it's fantastic. Now, after that game, and actually, speaking of Gruden, before the game, when he was talking to Mark Sanchez, the topic of cheesesteaks came up, and they were showing some.
That sounds so good right now,
doesn't it? Though they were showing some videos of people eating cheesecakes, and Mark Sanchez was like, "Oh man, I need that in my life." He apparently never had a true Philly cheesesteak from Pat's or Geno's.
Oh,
so he said, "Hey, we win this game, I'm getting one." And what happened? They won in the blowout. Sanchez actually looked pretty darn good, and he showed up.
Nice.
As Philly fans and the local ABC affiliate were gathered in South Philly outside of Pat's and Geno's, up rolls Mark Sanchez, did the politically correct thing and got a cheesesteak from both places.
Oh yeah,
you're not from Pennsylvania like I am, Bo, but
yeah,
that's a rivalry that is up there. You're either Team Pat's or Team Geno's.
Well, yeah, I remember when the guy I played with, Hank Baskett, actually was with the Eagles for a season. People were actually trying to get him to make that mistake. Which one do you like better? That is a very big deal. You never say that.
So that was kind of interesting. And now maybe instead of calling him Sanchez, the nickname Sancheese will stick. We'll see.
You know, and he still could be Sanchez. What do you think about it?
Well,
man?
you know, what a lot of analysts have been saying, and he alluded to this as well, is that what's different about Chip Kelly's offense compared to other NFL teams is they run it so fast that it's necessity that even the backup quarterback gets a lot of reps with the first team. Mm-hmm. So that turned out to be a big advantage for Mark Sanchez because he had already been working with these guys prior to Nick Foles going down.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I remember everybody said, every scout, Pete Carroll, when he came out of USC, Mark Sanchez makes up in arm strength with accuracy. His lack of arm strength is just nothing can compare to the accuracy. I've seen balls that would float, the arc was perfect, and the ball would just dive right down to the receiver's hands. And that's where I think he's going to separate himself because Philly fans, oh boy, you're talking about Philly fans. Whenever Foles comes back, he misses a couple passes or, he throws an interception, good luck.
No, I mean the Philly fans were so excited that Sanchez showed up. All kinds of people were taking selfies with him and posing with him and all that. But the second that Sanchez lays an egg out there, the batteries are going to start flying from the stands. That's the kind of city Philadelphia is.
It'll come against Dallas. That'll be the first egg.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. Now, it looked for just a brief second that the Raiders actually had a shot against the Broncos this weekend. And, I'm a Chiefs fan, so of course I hate every other AFC West team. So part of me, I knew they weren't going to win the game, but I allowed myself just that little bit of optimism. Like, oh, man, this could be the Raiders' day. They can take down the Broncos, man.
You and every other Chiefs fan in America.
Well, that didn't happen. And almost as surprising as a potential Raiders win was the Jets beating the Steelers. Now, who knows what went wrong with that train wreck, but Bo, you had an interesting theory about something that took place prior to the game that Saturday night with the Steelers, some Bible study, and a certain celebrity.
Yeah, man. I'm sitting here reading through the stories, and I'm saying, man, what happened to Pittsburgh? So I get on the Pittsburgh websites, NFL.com, all that good mess, and Ben Roethlisberger is releasing a statement letting us all know that Our boy Justin Bieber didn't have anything to do with the loss. Yes, Sean, Justin Bieber attended Bible study with the Pittsburgh Steelers the night before the game. Yeah, why?
What connection does Bieber have to the city of Pittsburgh?
And what connection does he have with Jesus? Like, that's what I can understand if they went and got the Reverend Al Sharpton and brought him in for Bible study. But Bieber, what was he doing? They have a little organ in there, and he's playing some songs, singing for them.
He's getting the congregation
He's got the whole world in his hands, and Ben's up there with the football,
Ben's rocking back and forth.
Like, come on, guys. And if you're Justin Bieber, so you made $100 million, you're the biggest thing on earth, and you get to chill with your pro football team. And what do you go do? Let's go to Bible study, boys. Come on. If I'm chilling with the Cowboys, we're not doing that.
I don't know what you and Michael Irving would be doing, but I don't think it would be appropriate for air.
No.
My favorite part of this story was that Big Ben actually had to comment on this earlier today. He actually had to clarify that the loss had nothing to do with hanging out with Justin Bieber.
Pop music and pop culture, it has that kind of pull.
Of all the things that Big Ben thought he would never say, I would probably think that would rank right up there, clarifying that no, Justin Bieber did not lose us that game.
Yeah, the question I have, though, is somewhere in a Las Vegas mansion, is Floyd Mayweather having withdrawals? You feel like his buddy's hanging out with other people?
That's my little friend.
Hey, man, you can't be taking my little buddy. Him and Big Ben are going to have one of those big celebrity fights.
Okay, now, in just a second, we're going to be getting to both the NFL playoff picture and the latest college football playoff rankings, as well as our NFL picks. But this is a new segment that I would like to debut, Bo. It's just in the spirit of being transparent, for us taking accountability, and just being honest with the people overall.
Yeah, I totally agree, Sean. I get mad time and time again. You listen to the national sports personalities, they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth. If the people win that they say we're going to win, we'll hear about it all day. But if the people get beat that they said weren't going to get beat, you don't hear about it.
So this is a little segment I would like to call Dumb Stuff That Sean and Bo Have Said. And last week on the show, well, Bo sounded a little something like this.
When you are at halftime doing a sideline meeting with your coach because it's only 24-21 over the Lobos, going up against Notre Dame, who should have beat FSU, I'm going to go ahead and make that a lock this week. I'm pretty sure Notre Dame's going to get past that team.
I think so too, but
with ease. No, there's people out there predicting, there's people saying Arizona State's going to jump on the scene. Like, they got a Hail Mary against USC, and I've seen them struggle. They're a great young team, 2-loss, 3-loss team, but not ready for the playoffs. So we can cancel that out.
Ooh, that's a rough one, Bo.
Thank you, Mr. Colston. I appreciate that, buddy. See what you're doing to me out here?
That was a sad game to watch if you're a Notre Dame fan, but I was optimistic, Bo, about my NFL picks last week, and so optimistic that I thought maybe I had a chance of doing this. This week, I'm calling it right now. I might go 16-0 this week.
Oh, now, if you go 16-0, you better make 100,000.
Yeah, there wasn't 16 games, so even though I did pretty good, it might have been kind of dumb.
You were thinking about that Madden game the players are going to play on the bye week.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Okay, so it's now time. Throughout this football season, we can begin to take a look at who might be making the playoffs. It's far enough along in the season now. So Bo, you wanted to look. How did you want to do this? You want to look at division, conference?
Just starting off, we'll just jump in with the AFC. And, you got to keep in mind we're going to have our 4 division champions and our 2 wild cards. And when you start looking at this picture, the reason I wanted to sit back and take a look at the NFL landscape this week is because some interesting things have happened. You have an NFC best team, Arizona, that just lost their quarterback, and they have a guy named Stanton that's supposed to lead them. Not going to happen.
No,
so
I agree.
Let's really step back and take a look at this. You have the AFC East. Let's get it started. 7-2 New England, Miami's 5-4, and Buffalo's 5-4. The Jets are out of it. Looking at that one, New England, they're your sure lock. I would go ahead and say New England runs away with the AFC East like they have done in the past. What do you think about that?
I think the only team out there that could really give them a run, and it would. I mean, I think the way that they've been playing is not going to continue, and that is the Dolphins. I'm not a Bills believer after seeing the KC and Bills game.
Yeah.
They've got too many problems there, even though that defensive front looked great. But yeah, I would agree. I think the Pats are going to win there.
Now, this next division here, after that Thursday night game where Cleveland, really put their foot down and said, we're here to stay. For the time being, they look like they're here to stay. Cleveland's 6-3, Cincinnati's 5-3, and then you have Pittsburgh and Baltimore both at 6-4. That's a toss-up. Now, after what happened last week with the whole Bieber Bible study incident and the dropping the game to the Jets, you kind of say, oh, Pittsburgh's up to their old thing, their old ways. But they can win 2 or 3 in a row and be right back in it. Cincinnati, I think they continue to lose. I've lost faith in them.
That's probably the toughest one for me to call. Even though the Ravens are sitting at the bottom there, don't count them out quite yet. I don't know. That one's really tough for me.
Yeah, and this is also a division. I think people, if you look at it initially, you're like, oh, a bunch of teams that have got a game or two above 500. You think a wild card's going to come out of there. No. They're going to beat up on each other. They're going to lose to other people. You have to win the division to get out of the AFC North, I believe.
Meanwhile, you look at the AFC South, Bo. Jeez. I mean, is there any way the Colts don't win that?
Yeah. Colts, come on. If you lose that division, that would be a sad day. And then, jump right over into the AFC West. I think that's where the wild cards come from, just like last year.
Totally agree.
I think you guys gave us both of them, right?
Yep.
Chargers and the Chiefs. I don't think anything changes with that. Denver, Kansas City, San Diego, they're cut above everybody else. They're right there with New England and Indianapolis. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But I think that's our playoff picture. It's real simple. The AFC is not really going to change a lot. It's going to look the same as it did last year.
I can't wait for that second Bronco-Chiefs game. That's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a fun one to watch. And, TV – We forget that this is all entertainment and it's TV sometimes. And the NFL playoffs do a good job of giving us sequels. And I'd just love to see a sequel of that Kansas City-Indianapolis game. They would not have won that game if Jamal Charles does not get hurt.
Now, before we look at the NFC East, I just have to point out to our dear listeners that Bo is currently drinking Kool-Aid out of a Jerry Jones glass. So take what he has to say with this one, a little bit of grain of salt.
We are not going 8-8 again. It's over. We're not going 8-8, Sean. You got to stop buying into the hype. And you got to remember, we're going against Sanchez. I think he's a great quarterback, but
great.
I just look at the guy's situation. He had to come out early because he knew he was going to be a number 1 draft pick. That's smart. You don't wait on that. There's a lot of people that have waited and it doesn't pan out for him. He comes out and he goes to the Jets. Oh, great. I have to go play for the Jets. Now he's with a team that has an offense, it has a coach, it has a system, it has athletes around him, and he can win football games. I just think they split with Dallas. The key with Dallas and Philadelphia is not when they play each other. It's going to be don't lose another game to Washington, Dallas. Don't lose a game to New York, Dallas.
Don't keep an injured Tony Romo in the game when it's a blowout, Dallas.
Fourth quarter, 9 minutes on the clock. Because I remember watching like 9 or 10 minutes on the clock. He takes a hit. We have a 22-point lead or something at that time. Murray, I think, went out of the game with an injury, comes back in so he could get his 100 yards. I don't believe that stat is that important to where if the guy's got a soft noggin, we're running him back out there, or his ankle's hurting or tweaked, whatever. Garrett, you still make some funny decisions for a guy that's leading a 7-3 football team. Moving on, NFC North. Woohoo, good luck with this one, Sean. Detroit, great defense. Great defense. But without Megatron, even with Megatron, they struggle. Stafford, he's thrown pick after pick, and you don't know what to expect from them. Green Bay continues to show us that they can be a championship team. Where does Green Bay's 3 losses come from? I have a hard time putting their 3 losses together.
They've got one in the division, I think.
Yeah, because they have been playing so well since they've jumped back on the national scene.
Yeah, no, I think the Lions already beat them.
That's what it is. Yeah. Lions got them. That's who it was.
Yep. I think the Packers win there.
You do?
Yeah.
Offense prevails.
I'm not a big believer in the Lions this year.
I'm not either, but that defense, they finally, even with Caldwell, that's what's funny about that. You would think losing Schwartz and going to Caldwell that the defense would, suffer, take a step back, and offense would carry them. But it's not the case at all. So I'll disagree with you on that one. I'm going to say Detroit wins that division.
So in the NFC South then, of course, you know how the Saints season started, not so great. They probably should have won this last game, but I don't know. I mean, do they have the talent that it's going to take to take the Falcons out of that top spot?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one there because if you remember that first week of the NFL, they escaped. If you just let the Falcons win that close game, it's a total different landscape with that whole division. Even with Carolina's loss to Philly, I think they're just 2 games out of that first place in that division. I think injuries, that's the one division where whoever wins it backs themselves into the playoffs, but they make a real quick exit. They're not going to last long.
Okay, and finally with the NFC West.
Yes. Wow. You talk about a blow, man. 8-1 and you lose your quarterback. How are you feeling if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan today?
Awfully nervous.
Stanton? Who is this guy? Like, where did he come from? So I'm not picking Arizona. And if you want to go back and listen to our show, you'll hear me. I was on the Arizona bandwagon for weeks now. With Carson Palmer going down, that changes everything for them. Seattle, back in the driver's seat.
Well, before we get to our Week 11 NFL picks, Bo, let's take a look at the current college football playoff rankings that came out earlier this evening, Bo. Honestly, this was the most interesting of these rankings that have come out. This is the time where we're seeing big flip-flops in the rankings, teams leapfrogging other teams. This one was good.
Yeah.
So in case you didn't hear, number 4, TCU. Number 3, Florida State. 9-0 Florida State is number 3. And who's ahead of them? Oregon. That team that nearly lost to Utah, that is 9-1, is now your number 2 team. And of course, the top spot didn't change. What were your reflections on the rankings as they came out?
And, it's good to be TCU. It's good to be Oregon. The committee, like me, remember the first weekend of college football, I came in here like a kid in a candy store. I was so excited. I watched UCLA go to the East Coast, play Virginia. Played a great game, and I was telling you, watch out for UCLA. That's the team. They made a big leap. I think it's too late for them. They would like to be Ohio State right now, but they're not Ohio State. As far as any team that's outside of the top 4, Sean, I think number 1, it has to go to Alabama. Best chance of making it. They control their own destiny. They just have to beat the people in front of them. They're going to be in that. Second, that's a tough one because you look at that and you're like, number 8, Ohio State, number 7, Baylor, number 6, Arizona State. Not a lot of control for those guys. Those guys are kind of waiting for that just huge mess up by like 4 teams that are ahead of them.
Yep.
They don't control a lot. So, Alabama, here we are again. Alabama's right in the middle of things. We didn't expect that. But I got something for you, Sean. A lot of people are talking about this now. I seen it pick up a couple days ago. ESPN was talking about this. There is a possibility SEC could miss this whole playoff. Just if you look at the schedule, they could beat each other.
Don't buy it.
You don't buy it at all?
Nope.
I totally – if you look at the worst-case scenario, which it is a worst-case scenario, I don't for 1 minute believe that Alabama beats Mississippi State or Mississippi State wins this game and then goes in the last week, and loses. I just don't see that happen. That's too much.
But what if Arizona or Arizona State ends up beating Oregon? I mean, where do you slot them?
They're back.
Exactly.
SEC's right back in it. And that's the way it always happens. You see it happen earlier in the evening, and then by midnight, you're like, oh, there goes that.
Same old, same old.
Yeah. Oregon can never hold it down in the late nights. The only thing you're good for is maybe beating a spread after midnight.
Speaking of spreads, could be my favorite segment of the show. And in part, if you're a new listener, it's because I've made Bo a big loser in this segment. That is NFL picks. Now, this last week, yeah, I might have thought that I had a chance to go 16-0, but I still did pretty decent, 10-3. Bo, yourself?
After about week 3 doing the picks, I'm shooting for consistency.
Yeah, well, you've got that. You've got that handled, Bo.
Yeah, 7-6. That's where I come in at. 7 wins, 6 losses.
If you go back to the first week that we started NFL picks on the show, I think it was week 5. I told you people that this was going to be a boat race, that every week the margin between Bo and myself is just going to grow wider and wider. And look what has happened. I am the victor, Bo. You have no chance of getting me now.
It's over.
It is over. But with that in mind, let's try to make you people some money. Taking a look at week 11 of the NFL. Your Thursday nighter, Bo, features Buffalo at Miami. Miami is currently the favorite in this game, spread Miami by 3. I would probably agree with that. I like the way Tannehill's playing right now. I don't like the way Buffalo's playing right now. It's a pretty obvious choice for me. Give me Miami.
Well, as you know, Sean, in a week that I have dubbed toss-up week, because every single matchup, I don't believe there is a favorite when you start talking about the teams we're getting ready to talk about.
Yeah, these are some very narrow spreads this week, for sure.
I'm going to go ahead and predict this. I will have my best week just because it's toss-up week. I'm just going to pick. Looking at this one, you know what? I like Miami's uniforms better than Buffalo's. Let's go, Miami.
Your wife is picking the games for you now, isn't she? All right, on to the action on Sunday. First early game. Yick. Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago, I mean, they have the weapons. They have Cutler. They have Forte. They have Brandon Marshall. But they just haven't been gelling. Will they turn it around? Probably not. I don't see them as a playoff team. I don't think there's any way that happens. But I do think they have what it takes to beat Minnesota. Give me Chicago. Spread in that game, 3 points.
They have no chance. But I will say this. Each one of these teams have coaches that look like they came out of the 1940s. So, they're probably going to come out in leather helmets for this game. I'm going to go ahead and take Minnesota.
When the Bears coach gets fired, I think he'll probably open up a used and antique bookstore.
Oh, yeah.
I could see him doing that.
That's right up his alley.
Next game, Houston at Cleveland. Man, part of me just wants to see Johnny Football get a little run. Let him get on the field a little bit. Maybe one of these games will be a big blowout, and since they aren't the Cowboys, they'll actually put the backup in the game. I think this is going to be an entertaining game, though. I think it's going to be close. Jadevion's probably going to be close to 100%, but I think Cleveland wins in a squeaker.
I'm going to go ahead and go with Cleveland, and you heard me talk. I'm not going against Cleveland anymore. I think they're real. They're here to stay.
This next game started off as a pick'em when the spreads came out, but the line has now shifted. Seattle at Kansas City. Current spread, Kansas City by 1.5. Bo, Kansas City's going to beat them more than that. Give me the Chiefs, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead with you. I'm going to tell you why. Even if you're a fantasy guy and you're listening to this, you want to grab Niles Davis or Jamal Charles. Brandon Maben is done for the year. According to the defensive line coach and Pete Carroll, he was having the best season of his 9-year career that he's ever had. With him gone in the middle, yeah, Katie bar the doors. Let's go Chiefs.
This game's a little bit tough for me to pick. I think when Atlanta travels to Carolina, they're going to be facing the better team. But, Bo, Cam Newton, man, it looks like something is seriously wrong with that guy. He had no mobility, got sacked, 9, 10 times, something like that. Guy is just not the same player he used to be. I don't know if there's an undisclosed injury we're not hearing about or what, but I think Atlanta gets it done traveling to Carolina.
Yeah, I heard that they got this think tank together out in Silicon Valley, and they're trying to figure out what this is, what it's called. It's the same thing Mark Sanchez suffered. Carson Palmer went through it. There's a whole list of these quarterbacks. I think it's called being drafted by crappy teams. That's what happened. So
is that a scientific term?
Yeah, there we go. It's real simple. You can't unless you're a Manning, let's all remember that. Unless you're a Manning, you can pick the team you play for, because Archie does that for Eli, right?
I'm not playing for San Diego.
I'm not going there.
I'll tell you that right now.
So, this is real simple. Let's go with Atlanta. Carolina, you need to either trade Cam Newton or put players around him, or you're going to have one of those nasty exits that you just experienced with Steve Smith Sr.
Next game, Cincinnati at New Orleans. This game's not going to be close, and the spread reflects that. It's one of the bigger spreads this week. New Orleans by 7. That sounds about right, and I'd probably even bet the spread. Give me the Saints.
Yeah, take the Saints. Jimmy Graham is alive and well. That guy is ready to get some points.
Next game, it's another early one. Tampa Bay travels to Washington. This one's a little tougher for me to call, but I think the Bucs are just flat out awful. Washington's they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they have what it takes in this game.
This will be the game where you'll see all the RG3 highlights, and you'll be like, oh, that's why they drafted that guy. It'll kind of remind you of why he's in the NFL.
The return of RG3.
Yeah. They'll be like, look at RG3. They'll be highlighting his passes on the Monday morning quarterback shows and all that good mess.
There is no way in hell I would take this next spread, Bo. Denver at St. Louis. Now, as we know, St. Louis has been playing teams tough. They are not getting blown out. They're coming out with some rather surprising wins. They're hanging tough against Arizona. I'm not that much of a believer in the Rams. I think that they're better than the record would indicate, but I think Denver probably gets it done in pretty convincing fashion.
Yeah, I'm not going to go against Denver in this game. Definitely would take the Broncos.
You see what he's doing, folks? You see? He's learned. All right. Last early game on Sunday, San Francisco at the Giants. Of course, we know the 49ers squeaked that one out last week in overtime. Will we see the return of Eli Manning? No. No, we won't. San Francisco wins. I think they get somewhat of their identity back. I think you're going to see a big offensive performance by Kaepernick. Give me San Francisco.
Yeah, you got people like Frank Gore. He scored his first touchdown since I think like September 21st over the weekend. They're starting to wake up. I think they're hearing, or getting tired of hearing about how their locker room's falling apart and their coaches going to Michigan. San Francisco is definitely going to make a push with Seattle to take that top spot in the NFC West.
On to the afternoon games. Will Oakland win a game this season, Bo? Yes or no?
That's a tough one. But when you look at the schedule, you're like, well, who's it going to be against? I don't see San Diego slipping up against them.
I don't think the Raiders win a single game the rest of this year, so I'm going to take San Diego.
Yeah. How many people thought that when Al Davis died, they'd get better?
Next game features your cheesesteak-eating quarterback, Mark Sanchez, going all the way up to where it's cold, Green Bay. Now, this one's a tough game.
Very tough.
Spread is Green Bay by 5. I'm going against the grain. I think Philadelphia gets it done.
Ooh, first mistake of the night for Sean. I'm going to go ahead and take Green Bay, buddy.
All right, I'm marking that down. Last afternoon game, Detroit at Arizona. We know what happened to Carson Palmer. I'm not a believer in Arizona anymore. Bo, I know last week you even said that they were currently the best team in the league. Not anymore.
Nope.
Lions win.
Yeah, Lions are going to beat them, and I think it's going to it'll go back to being like the mid-'90s era Cardinals type score.
Interesting spread in that game, by the way. Arizona by 2.
What do they know?
I think they're just trying to encourage betting.
Yeah.
All right, now the primetime game on Sunday, this is going to be a good one. I think we're going to buck the trend of these primetime games being blowouts.
Yeah, get your popcorn for this one, buddy.
As New England travels to Indy. Spread currently Indy by 3. I say forget that. Patriots win.
Yeah, and the reason I'm bringing up the whole popcorn thing, I don't know how many times I've fallen asleep with a half-eaten bag of popcorn because of these Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night games recently. Please give us one good one, Goodell. I know you had a lot of things to deal with in the offseason, allegedly not looking at the tape, but at least you can get over to the scheduling department and make sure this doesn't happen again.
Well, we're entering the part of the season where we're games are going to get flexed. So at least in theory, we should be getting some really good matchups.
That's right. I forget about the whole flex schedule. That's a good one. But I'm going to go ahead and go with, this is a tough one, man. I see T.Y. Hilton. I see Andrew Luck. I see Ahmad Bradshaw. I see weapons. But I also see Gronkowski. And I'm going to go ahead and take New England.
And finally, your Monday nighter, Pittsburgh, I think, gets their groove back as they travel to Tennessee. Spread Pitt by, can't read my own handwriting, looks like 5.5 points. Sounds about right. I'll take the Steelers. I'd probably take that spread as well.
Pittsburgh is almost like this team you could bet the whole season on and make a profit. I don't know if you've noticed this, Sean, but since that very first loss against, I think, Tampa Bay, when I was all heavy on them and Pittsburgh's the best team in the league type talk, fast forward to now, they literally blow people out for 2 games in a row, and then they lay an egg. So they're going to blow them out in this game, blow Tennessee out, blow out the next opponent, and then the third week, they're going to lay an egg. Watch.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Sean and Bo Show. We'd like to thank all of our new listeners for checking out the show. Please tell a friend. So until next week, I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.
See you next week.